Hey everyone, welcome back to Assanes. So, this particular video is the part 2 for the chapter Magnetic Effects of Electric Current. In our previous chapter, we have discussed from the beginning till solenoid, and right now in this particular video, we will be discussing from force on a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field. Okay, so for this part to be explained, we will be just having a look at a little activity over here. So in this activity, what you're supposed to do is, you're supposed to take a small aluminium rod. This is the rod over here, and you are supposed to suspend it to connect it to a circuit. Okay, forget about this magnet. We have a horseshoe magnet over here which we'll be adjusting later. What you're supposed to do is, you are supposed to take an aluminium rod, a small aluminium rod, okay, of a sufficient length. You are supposed to connect it to conducting wires, okay, which is connected to a switch and a battery. So this has to be connected in such a way that this particular rod is suspended in a sense. It is free to move wherever it can. Okay, it's just swinging there. And now what we are supposed to do is, we are supposed to take a horseshoe magnet. Okay, the magnet which is in the horseshoe shape, something like C, and you are supposed to keep it in this manner. Like for example, if this is your magnet, your suspended wire is in this manner. Okay, so this is not supposed to be like this. This is supposed to be like this. Okay, it's like this, and here is your rod which is supposed to be suspended. Now what is going to happen is, for the next part of the experiment, you are supposed to switch it on. Okay, so as you switch it on, what happens here? Okay, see, just a small clear diagram so that you can understand. Okay, the horseshoe magnet which you have used over here, you're supposed to arrange it in such a way that the south pole faces upwards and the north pole faces downwards. We also know that inside a magnet, the magnetic field runs from south to north, and outside the magnetic lines rises from north to south. So this is how it normally is. So when you start your current, okay, imagine your current or electricity is running in this direction. Okay, that is, it's running from B to A. In that case, as you start the current, what you're going to observe is, this rod which was moving freely, it's going to experience force. It's going to experience a force towards the south. That means you will see that this particular rod, instead of being straight, it's going to move towards the left side. That means it's going to, okay, this B part is going to be attracted towards the south side. Now for the next part of the experiment, or for the next step, what you're supposed to do is, you are supposed to change the direction of the current. Like in the first case, it was moving from B to A. Now for the second half of the experiment, what we are going to do is, we are going to change the direction from A to B. Now the current is flowing inside this wire from A to B. Not the wire, the rod. Now what you're going to observe is, instead of moving towards the left side, the rod will move towards the right side. Okay, so just a little depiction. Okay, when the current moves from A to B, instead of moving towards the left side, it's going to move towards the right side. Okay, and here it shows that the direction of the current will definitely have an effect in experiencing force. The direction of the force, or direction of the force of acting on the conductor, will vary with the direction of the current. Now, as you have seen the experiment, what is the conclusion drawn through this experiment? The conclusion here is, whenever a current carrying rod, okay, whatever your rod is, it is placed in a magnetic field, then it will experience a force perpendicular to its length and the magnetic field. Okay, so to understand this in a better way, we are going to use a law, that is Fleming's left hand rule. So regarding rules and laws, I have already made a specific video where all your laws come together. Okay, I have made it so it becomes easier for you while studying. So you can go check the link, which I will provide in the description box for your better reference. Now let's try to see what does this Fleming's left hand rule has to say. Okay, so you are supposed to take your left hand, since your law states that this is supposed to be a left hand rule. What I am going to do is I am going to select my left hand and I am going to arrange my fingers right angle to one another, something like this. Okay, so I have got 90 degree over here and I have got 90 degree over here. So you can see that all my three fingers are arranged in the in this manner, in the Fleming's left hand rule manner. So now what does it have to say? So in this case, what my law tells me is, according to this rule, okay, I have stretched my forefinger, middle finger and forefinger, thumb and the middle finger of my left hand, and now they are mutually perpendicular. If the first finger points in the direction of magnetic field and the second finger in the direction of current. Okay, so if this is my direction of magnetic field, if at all my current is moving in this manner, I am holding a wire and the direction of the current is in this manner, then the magnetic field is supposed to be this. And then in this case, if this two exists, if this two falls in place, then my thumb, that is towards the upward direction, it will point towards the direction of the force the current is facing, or the conductor is facing, or the current. Okay, so here see, we have got two laws. We will be discussing the next law as well, later in this video. So both laws sound the same. Both laws talk about, where you arrange, for the other hand also you are going to arrange in similar manner, and more or less the, the denotion is also the same. But the difference lies there as well. There is a slight difference between a left hand rule and a right hand rule. I'll be telling you about it, while after discussing the right hand rule, so that it becomes easier for you to grasp. Just that you need to remember is, this motion will exist only when this is the direction of magnetic field and this is the current. So you are having your current, you are having your magnetic field. When this two exists, this two will result in this. Okay, this is the case for your left hand rule. So as we were talking about Fleming's left hand rule, you need to know that Fleming's left hand rule is also called as motor rule. Okay, this is the other name given to Fleming's left hand rule. The reason behind calling it as motor rule is because this is the principle. Fleming's left hand rule acts as a principle in the working of a motor, which we'll be discussing very soon in this video. So that is the reason why we call this particular law as motor rule. Regarding Fleming's left hand rule, it is having wide range of application. As I said, the first one is supposed to be the motor, because your motor works, electric motor works on the principle of Fleming's left hand rule. Other than that, MRI. What is this MRI? Okay, MRI full form is magnetic resonance imaging. So whenever you are taking a video, kind of scanning of your body, of your internal organs, we call it as MRI, especially of the brain parts. Okay, other than that, even your galvanometer, what you can see on the screen, okay, so even that works on the principle of Fleming's left hand rule. Since we have already studied about motor rule, or my left hand rule, Fleming's left hand rule. As I said before, it is a motor rule. Hence, we will be discussing about electric motor first before moving forward for the rest. Electric motor, this is our simple diagram for an electric motor. What you need to remember about electric motor is something which uses electricity and gives you mechanical energy. That means it does work for you. Okay, if at all you have got motors in your electrical appliances, you have got motors for everything which is working on electricity. So in short, what I'm trying to tell you is this motor is a device which will utilize electricity to do work for you. It's like you're feeding it electricity. After feeding electricity, that electricity is going to use to do the necessary work which you are supposed to take from it. Like for example, if you are using a mixer has got its own motor inside. Okay, so when you pass electricity through it, this motor is going to take the electricity and make the mixer or your blender blend. Okay, you'll see the blades, running around or moving around towards the center, and then because of that, whatever you are supposed to grind or whatever you are supposed to blend will be blended well. Okay, this is just a simple example. So here, motor is nothing but a device which will convert electrical energy into mechanical energy. Electrical energy is the electricity, mechanical energy is the work which you are supposed to or which you will be taking from it. So it's used, you have got wide varieties. It's used in electric fans, refrigerator, mixers, washing machines, your computers, MP3 players, you name it, and it has an electric motor. Okay, so now we'll be discussing about how electric motor works. What is the principle already we know, but what is the method? We are going to see the parts of it. We are going to see how does it start to work and what are the reasons behind the working of it. So now, as you can see here, you have got two boxes over here which states as N and S. These two boxes are nothing but magnets. This is the north pole of the magnet and this is the south pole. We are using two strong magnetic blocks over here. These are quite very strong. Okay, one is the north one is actually acting as the north pole and the other one is acting as the southern pole. And then you have got something like this over here, right? This rectangular piece, what you have in the center, which is named as ABCD. This is nothing but, soft iron or soft copper wire. Anything can be selected over here. So here, this is in this case, in this particular one which is stated in your textbook, this is nothing but an insulated copper wire. Okay, it is shaped in such a way that it looks rectangle. Okay, and now these two ends, they are connected to, can you see the small rectangular piece like stuff? Okay, so this is nothing but your brushes. Okay, one side is named as X, other side is named as Y. This X and Y are in turn connected to P and Q. This P and Q are half rings, what we call as split rings. That means they are half. And as you can see here, okay, this is actually circulating this axle. This axle is nothing but it's just a kind of a stand which is helping it to stay in place or supporting it to stand in place. Now this X and Y is again connected to conducting wires which is having a battery, that is set of cells, and we have also got a switch. Okay. Now let's try to see how this electric motor works. Before understanding the working of the motor, let me clear a misconception what normally the student have. This brush and this ring is not connected to one another. Okay, this brush and ring is never connected to one another. They are just touching one another. Okay, so this ring, okay, you can just circulate it and this X will be connected, instead of being with P, it's going to be with Q as well. Okay, so this X and Y, they are not connected to any, they're not, joined to any rings. They are just touching them. Okay, here as well as here, in both places, this X and Y are not completely joined to any part, but they are just touching these rings. Okay, so now, as you know, you have got a battery and a switch, and definitely this is supposed to be the electricity source. Whenever a battery is given, that means that particular battery is working as the electricity source. So we are going to utilize this electricity. We are going to switch it on since we want the work to be done. We are going to switch it on and electricity starts rushing inside this conducting wire. And you always should know that your current will always move towards the positive side. Okay, from the positive side it's going to run. It's going to run from here till here, and then it's going to reach your X, and from the X it's going to reach your P. Okay, see here, this wire is connected to P. Okay, it looks in the diagram as if it's connected to X, but it's actually connected to your P, and similarly this is connected to your this part. So now current from X will reach your ring, and from the ring it's going to go in this manner to A, B, C, D. Okay, and from the D it's going to again reach your ring over here, Q. Now after Q, what happens? We'll see how they are changing the directions. We are going to see that later. But now, what I mean to tell you is, if you remember Fleming's left-hand rule, what we have discussed, few minutes back, we know that we need to have direction of current. We also need to have direction of your magnetic field, right? So what is a magnetic field here now? Okay, so as you can see here, what happens is, because of the north and the south pole wave, we have got current. Now this current carrying conductor is going to face a force by this north and south pole of the magnet. So what will be the force? The force will be something which will make this conductor move, or make this coil move. It's going to rotate. Okay, so how it is rotating, you can see in the GIF which I'll be attaching here. Okay, so it's going to rotate, and as it is rotating, this rings will also rotate. Okay, so what will happen is, as you know, the ring, when it rotates, what you can observe is, in the first half, or when half of the rotation happens, AB is going to move over here and CD is going to come over here. Along with CD, the Q will be now facing, or it will be connected to the X brush. The current which is coming in this direction from the X brush, instead of going to P, now we have Q over here. It will run to Q and it will move here inside this. So basically what we are trying to tell you is, the direction of the current here will be in this manner. Okay, it will be running here, here and here. Okay, if you see, then the current will be rotating in this manner itself. Just that your insulating wire will not be the same. It will not be facing the same side. Okay, it will be changing its, this will be rotating continuously. That means it will be completely on movement because of the force, caused by this magnetic field created by this magnets on this current carrying conductors. This will be experiencing force and making it to rotate. As it is rotating, because of that, the rings here will be interchanged, and current, instead of going to, in the first case, in the first half, it will be running from P to A. In the second half, it will be running to Q to D. So in the insulating copper wire, your current will be changed. Okay, the direction will be changed, but in the outer circuit, your current is running in the same direction. Okay, so here, when you are having a current which is not changing its direction, we call it as direct current, or in short we write it as DC. So what is this DC? I'll explain you in detail along with the counterpart of it. Till then, you can just check the GIF over here which I have attached so that you can understand it better, how it works. You can see the PQ rings, you can see how it is rotating. Now, since we have already understood how a motor works, let's see the commercial usage of motor. Okay, so electromagnet in commercial usage, what happens here is, instead of your normal magnets, we use here electromagnets, because we don't actually use permanent magnets here. Electromagnets are much more stronger, they're much more efficient, so we use here electromagnets. We are actually not using the wire in such manner. We are using a soft iron core, a cylinder like, and on that the twining of the copper wire takes place. That is how it is actually used in, when we're using it practically. So this will actually help you to increase the power of your motor. Hence we are using in that particular method. Next we'll be discussing the next topic, that is electromagnetic induction 13.5. Now, the word electromagnetic induction, what does it mean? Electro stands for electricity, magnetic stands for magnetism, induction stands for inducing. That means you are forcing something. You are forcingly creating this electricity and magnetism. You're forcing the electricity to produce the magnet, or you're forcing the magnet, the relationship between electricity and magnetism, you are using it to create one another. So if that is the case, we call it as electromagnetic induction. To explain this concept, we are going to use an experiment used, it was actually studied and it was actually created by English physicist Michael Faraday. Okay, so what does this experiment does? We are going to see that. So according to the experiment, this is how the setup is supposed to be. You are supposed to take copper wire with large number of turnings, and we are supposed to connect the ends to a galvanometer, and we are going to use again a bar magnet over here. So what you are going to observe is, as you are putting this magnet, if you are pushing it inside this number of turns of the coil, you are going to see a deflection over here. And then if you remove it, again you will be seeing a deflection, but in the opposite side. Like for example, if you push this inside, your deflection, suppose if it goes in this manner, when you push it out, your deflection will be in the other side. That means your needle will move towards the other side. Okay, as you can see here in this particular GIF. So what is the point of this now? The point is that here we have no electricity source. We don't have electricity over here at all. We have got no batteries, we have got no switch, nothing. We are just using a magnet. We are just moving the magnet inside and out, and just because of that, what is going to happen is current will be starting, or current will be induced in this. So that is what is being trying to explain. That is what we are actually trying to say over here, that just using a magnet, just using a changing magnetic field, we are creating, or we are inducing. We are not actually creating, we are inducing current. See here, when suppose this is a magnet, when it is at rest, the magnetic field is this. The magnetic field also remains static. The force which it is exerting around, it will remain static. When you move this, along with the magnet, its field or its force of attraction, whatever it is exerting outside, it will also be moving along with the magnet. And hence the purpose of the experiment is served over here. We have shown you how using just a magnet you can create electricity, or you can induce current. Next we are going to see another part of the experiment, which is on the next page, 13.7. What is the experiment over here? You're supposed to take two coils, two set of turnings. One is supposed to be the coil 1, other one is supposed to be the coil 2. coil 1 has got so many turns. Imagine it's supposed to be 100. And in case of coil 2, it's exactly half. It's supposed to be, for example, we are just considering the example here. So if this is 100 turns, this is supposed to be 50. And coil 1 is connected to a set of cells. That is, you have got a battery here, you have got a switch. Whereas your coil 2 is just connected to a galvanometer. No electricity source is present over here. But you have got an electricity source over here. Now, what you are going to do is, you are going to switch it on. You are going to plug in the key, okay, plug out the key so that the current runs through this. When the current starts through this, what you are going to observe is, you are going to observe a deflection in the galvanometer. Okay, when there is a deflection in the galvanometer, that means current is present. Galvanometer has a capacity. It's actually a device which will help in identifying the presence of current. So when this deflects, that means current is produced over here. Okay, so now for the next step, what we are going to do is, see here, what we are going to do is, we are going to cut the connection of this coil 1 with the battery. Again, what you are going to see is, as you are disconnecting it, you will again see a deflection in the galvanometer. But it will be in the opposite side. Like for example, when current started in this coil, the deflection over here was towards the right side. Again, when you disconnect coil 1 with the battery, what you're going to observe is, you're going to observe a deflection but in the opposite direction, which shows that the current is moving in a different direction. This deflection is not only going to show you the presence of current, but it will also show you the direction of the current in which the current is moving inside the coil. So now, what is the point of this experiment? Okay, we don't have any magnet over here. So what we are trying to explain here, how it is electromagnetic induction. This is what I will be telling you. When the current runs through coil 1, you have seen a deflection here. You know that you don't have any current source over here, and these two are not at all connected. So what actually happens here? When your current starts over here, because of the electricity running or the current running through this coil, a magnetic field is generated. Because electricity and magnetism, they are, they sustain one another. Wherever you have electricity, you have magnetic field around it. And wherever you have magnetism, it will also result in electricity. So hence, because of the electricity running over here, a magnetic field is produced, due to which current will be induced in this coil. Similarly, when you disconnect it, what happens is, the magnetic field around this changes. Because of the change in the magnetic field again, it will again result in the production of a slight amount of current in coil 2. So in short, whenever you have a magnet, as we have seen over here, because of the changing magnetic field, you could see a current change. If the magnet is sitting straight, no current presence will be shown. When the magnet is on movement, that is exactly when you will see the presence of current. This shows that a changing magnetic field will produce electric current. Similarly, a changing electric field, okay, a change in electric field will also result in change in magnetic field. Because of the, see here, when there is exactly a change in the electricity over here, then only a magnetic field will be produced, which will also vary, or which will also be changing with respect to electricity. And because of the change in the magnetic field, it will result in electricity production in coil 2. Now, this entire thing again will be explained with a law. As said before, you are having a right hand rule as well. Okay, same thing, just that you are supposed to use your right hand. So you can see here, if the forefinger indicates the direction of magnetic field and thumb shows the direction of motion of the conductor, then the middle finger will show the direction of induced current. So here what it states is, if at all this finger is pointing in the direction of magnetic field and this finger is showing the direction of the motion of the force, then this will be the direction of the induced current. The current which you have forcefully produced inside will be moving in this direction. If at all, if and only if, this is the direction of your magnetic field and this is the direction of your conductor motion. Okay, the force the force which is acting on your conductor, the direction of the force, if it is this and magnetic field is this, then and then only this will be the direction of induced current. That means because of this two, this is being produced. Whereas in your left hand rule case, because of this and this was produced. Because of your both fingers, your thumb was created there. And in case of right hand rule, because of the first two fingers, your third finger is showing the direction of the induced current. This is the only difference, otherwise everything remains the same. You know, the words and what your fingers are pointing, they are the same. Just the difference in which two are the reasons for the production of the third, which is the produced unit. That is what you need to remember. Now, as you know, your left hand rule was also known as motor rule, since it is the principle behind the working of motor. Similarly, your right hand rule is also known as dynamo rule. Dynamo rule because this is the principle used in the working of a generator or a dynamo. A generator is something which is large. A dynamo is a smaller version of a generator. So we call it as a dynamo rule. So never get confused when you get a question regarding dynamo or a generator. Generator and dynamo are same, just that generator is a very big unit, whereas dynamo is the smaller version of the generator. Now, let's see how a generator works. This is a diagram for a generator which looks very much similar to that of your electric motor. So what are the similarities here? The presence of the magnets, the presence of the insulated copper wire, the axle. Okay, then again you have got brushes here. In the motor case, you had brushes, directly over here itself. In this case, you have got brushes B1 and B2. Okay, in different positions. Then again, you can see here your A is connected to a full ring. You have, if you remember, in your motor, you had half rings, split rings. In this case, you will have slip rings. That is, you are having full ring. Okay, like a bangle. So your A will be connected to R1. This is the R1. Okay, it's not connected to this, it's connected to this. And your D part, okay, this part or the end of this is connected to R2. So in the first case, okay, so in the previous one, if you remember in motor, we have seen that the rings are changing their positions with the brushes. In this case, see here, this rings are, see this R1 is always connected to B1 and your B2 is always connected to R2, just that they are not joined. Okay, it's like, okay, suppose this is my ring and this is my brush. They are able to rotate like this. Okay, like, they are touching one another. They are just roaming round and round. Though they are not connected, but still they will be connected to this ring throughout their lifespan, and here too the same. Okay, now trying to understand the outer circuit. See here, your B1 and B2, instead of being connected to a battery and a switch, as you have seen in motor, here you have just, you have got a galvanometer. And as you know, the job of the galvanometer is to actually show you the presence of electricity. So that will be the job of this. Now the main point, you don't have any electricity source over here. So how you will be working or how you will be creating electricity, which is the main job of the generator. The work of a generator is to produce electricity. In case of electric motor, what you have seen is it was converting electrical energy into mechanical energy. In case of generator, mechanical energy is converted into electrical energy. You are going to use some work and you are going to convert that work into electricity. So how is it going to happen? We are going to see that. So now what we are going to do is we are going to rotate this axle. We are going to, just turn it around such that it moves in clockwise direction. As it is moving in clockwise direction, what happens is because of the movement of this conductor, it experiences change in magnetic field. And you know that whenever there is a change in magnetic field, it will result in the production of electricity. So now current will be induced, current will be produced in the direction A, B, C, D. From D, the current will reach current will reach your R2, and from R2 to brush 2. From brush 2, it will be going in the opposite, that is in this direction, from brush 2 to brush 1. See here, after half of the rotation, AB will be on this side and CD will be on this side. So in the first case, current was moving from AB, and in the CD it was moving in this direction. Now when the tables have turned, in the CD it will be moving in this direction, and in AB it will be moving in this direction. So what will happen is, because of the change in the current, okay, you will be understanding it better with the movement of the GIF. In the first half, current was moving in this direction. In the second half of the rotation, current will be moving in the opposite direction. That is, it will be moving from, in the outer circuit. From A, it will be moving to R1, from R1 to B1, from B1 to B2. So the case is that in half rotation, current will be moving from B2 to B1. In the second half of the rotation, current will be moving from B1 to B2. So in one complete 360-degree rotation, your current's direction will be changing twice. Okay, so the first half it will be moving like this, in the second half it will be moving in the opposite direction. Such type of current which reverses its direction, we call it as alternating current. The current which keeps changing or reversing its direction, we call it as alternating current. This is the current which we use for domestic purpose as well. Okay, we'll talk about alternating current and direct current in detail later in this video. Okay, so in case of a generator, we normally produce alternating current, but there are times where we produce direct current. To produce direct current, we need to change the type of the rings. As you have seen here in motor, we need to attach something like this. In case if you want your generator to produce direct current, we need such type of rings. Okay, if you're using full rings, you are going to result, or it's going to result in the production of alternating current. Okay, so this rings will act as pavement towards a type of current which you want to produce. Okay, and since, as I said, split rings are needed to produce direct current, because split rings will help in keeping the direction of the current in the same direction. So we call these rings as commutators. Okay, this is the word which is given to these rings, because commutator is nothing but a device which will help in keeping the current direction in one direction itself to produce direct current. So here the split rings are the commutators. Now what you're going to observe is, as in the first case, when the current is flowing in this direction or in this direction, you're going to see deflection over here. In the first half of the rotation, imagine your deflection is on this side. In the second half of the rotation, because of the change in the current, your needle deflection will be on the other side, which will be actually, marking the presence, or which will be showing the presence of current, or the showing the presence of the induced current. And now is the correct time to talk about current. So in case of generator and motor, we have seen two different types of current, which is the only case. Okay, the first one what we have seen was the direct current in case of motor, and in case of generator what we have seen was alternating current. Alternating current is also denoted as AC, and direct current is denoted as DC. As you have seen, in case of alternating current, you will see reversing of the direction of the current periodically, that is every half cycle. Whereas in direct current, you won't have change in the direction. It's completely unidirectional. Okay, so but in this case, as I said before, for the domestic purpose, we prefer alternating current. The reason behind using alternating current is because it can be transmitted to larger distances without loss of energy. In case if you are using direct current for domestic purpose, most of the current might be lost before it reaches our houses and before it reaches our target part or target position. Okay, most of the current, with the distance, the current will start to lose itself. Whereas here in case of alternating current, because of the reversing in direction every now and then, here current loss will be negligible. Hence, this is mainly preferred for the domestic purposes. So whatever current we are getting over here, in case of India, it keeps reversing every 1 part of the 100th second. So if you are dividing a second into 100 parts, every 0.01, if I have to say, every in that fraction of time, your current will be reversing its direction. So in short, our frequency is 50 Hertz. In case of direct current, we use this type of current for storage purpose, like in your batteries and all. Okay, so whatever your charger, you are charging your batteries for your cell phone, for different purposes, right? So in all these cases, whatever current which is being stored, it is in the form of direct current, because you can never store alternating. It's very difficult to store alternating current. We actually don't store alternating current at all. It cannot be stored. In case of direct current, it can be stored, and that is the reason why we prefer this for storage purpose and we prefer this to use for domestic purpose. That is how it works. Next, running to the last topic of the chapter, domestic circuits. So this is the schematic representation for your domestic circuits. Okay, so as you have seen, for all your circuits, for all your switches, you have got normally you have got 3 puckered holes. Okay, so what does just 3 holes, or what normally, if not 3, are whatever appliances we use, they normally have 2. If they are heavy duty appliances, like for example your refrigerator, ovens, electric iron and all, you have got 3 plugged. So what is actually happening here, we are going to see that the 3 plugs what you have, one stands for live wire, one stands for neutral wire, and the topmost stands for earth wire. So earth wire is normally green in color. Okay, normally the wiring is done in green color. For the live wire, normally it's done in red, and for the neutral one, it's done in black color. So what happens here is, your earth wire or the green colored wire, this wire will run at a certain distance from your house. It will be running inside, it will be digged inside, it will be running down on the earth, and inside the earth it will be connected to a metallic plate. This wire will be not running through your circuit board, but from the inside of the earth itself it's connected, and it will be directly connecting to your circuits. So here again, in your electric board fuse, you will have 2 wires running through it. Main fuse, that is your main board. You have got live wire and a neutral wire. This both will be connected to the electric meter, where your all the readings and whatever consumption you are having, everything is noted down here in the meter. Okay, from the meter again you will have a distribution circuit box where you have got all the switches for each and every circuit. You can switch it off, switch it on, whatever. If you want to switch it off for a particular circuit, even that can be done through it. So everything will be connected there, and from there this wiring is running to all the plugs which is present inside your house for your domestic purpose. So among the 2 holes, the 2 main holes, at least your appliances will have 2, right? So one will be accounting for the live wire connection, and the other one will be accounting for the neutral wire connection. Whereas in red, as I said, in heavy duty appliances you will have the 3rd point, and this point will account for the earth wire. So as I said, this is present only, this circuit or this pin will be present only for your heavy duty appliances. So what is the job of this earth wire? First we'll talk about it, then we'll talk about the rest. So see here, in your heavy duty appliances, not the vehicles, you know, you use it requires large amount of voltage, large amount of current. So in this case, what happens is whatever extra current or whatever excess current it is taking, most of the time the current which they have utilized might not be in need, or they might they cannot store it, or they are not able to use it due to some reasons. So the excess of those current will be actually sent back through this point. It will be passing through this earth wire and reaching the plate which is present at the which is embedded inside the earth. This plate is very it's not insulating, it's of a very good conducting quality, due to which what happens is the current will be easily dispersed inside the earth. So this is how it will keep you safe. If at all this earth wire is not present, and if at all your appliance is having extra current due to which it might result in short circuiting of your appliance and all, it might be hazardous. It might actually cause problems to you. It might actually burn down your house as well. So this this earth wire will actually prove useful for that purpose. Next thing what you need to know is regarding your short circuit. So in case of short circuit, what happens is whatever current is running to your house, it has to pass through a fuse, electricity board. Sorry, not here. Here you'll have your fuse. Okay, if at all the current, okay, this will come. Your current, whatever is reaching you, it has to pass through this, and then it's going to reach you. Before reaching you, when it passes through this, sometimes due to some reasons your voltage might be more than necessary, or the current supply, the domestic supply which you are getting, it's above the necessary capacity. So in that case, it can harm your appliances. So here you'll have your fuse. As explained in your previous chapter, what will happen is the fuse wire will burn, and it will prevent short circuit. It will prevent your house from burning down. It will also prevent from harming your appliances. So that is how your electric fuse works over here. Okay, then the voltage what we normally get for our domestic purpose, its voltage is around 220 volts, whereas as discussed before, our domestic frequency is 50 hertz. Now, one more thing what we need to know over here is our circuits, whatever our plugs, our circuits are, they are not of the same, same capacity. Our main circuit is divided into two parts. For the heavy usage of, heavy appliances, they have got 15 ampere switches, and for the normal ones, we have got 5 ampere switches. You can see there are some of this, your switches which are that they are supposed to be of higher capacity. So you don't connect your refrigerators and irons to all the available switches. You do connect it only to those specific ones, because we need those heavy duty switches for the perfect working of those particular appliances. Whereas for the normal ones, for our normal daily usage, your chargers, it might be your normal lamp or anything, we use the normal 5 ampere switches. Other than short circuiting, we have got another issue, that is overloading. When you are actually stuffing all your circuits with, connecting all the appliances and extracting electricity from all the circuits, it results in overloading, and it can also cause defect to your appliances. So causes for overloading might be usage of more appliances, or might be accidental high and voltage supply. This is what you can control. This is what we cannot control. This happens rarely, but it does. So again, here we need to take care. Okay, we need to avoid overloading. We need to see that whatever appliances we are connecting the circuits, before connecting, we need to check our voltage supply. We will normally have an idea by the glowing of the bulb and all, so we can avoid this. Other than that, regarding safety devices, we have already discussed about this. Okay, that's all for this chapter. Okay, if in case of doubts, you can just leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. Thank you for watching.